So welcome everyone. Today's Friday. We are delighted to have with us Erin, Dr. Erin Massender to present. And Erin is originally from Chatham Kent in southwestern Ontario and now lives in Guelph with her two English Springer Spaniels. Erin started at the University of Guelph in the Bachelor's of Arts and Sciences program before continuing with graduate studies in CGIL under the supervision of Dr. Flavio Schenkel. Erin's master's work focused on genetic parameters, estimation, and selection index designed for carcass traits in Canadian meat sheep, while her PhD research worked towards implementing genomic evaluations for milk production and classification traits in Canadian dairy goats. During her time in CGIL, Erin was a CGIL seminar coordinator and co-president of the Animal Bioscience Graduate Student Council. While finishing up her PhD, Erin had the opportunity to join the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs as the acting small ruminant specialist throughout 2021, where she was involved in applied research and KTT activities to support the Ontario sheep and goat sectors. Erin defended her PhD in May 2022 and shortly after that joined the team at AgSites as Manager of Research and Innovation. In this week's seminar, she will be presenting an update on ongoing research and innovation projects at AgSites. So thank you, Erin, for joining us today, and I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Ivan. I managed throughout most of my PhD to avoid being on this side of the presentation and by being coordinator of CGIL seminar, but happy to give back and be here with everyone today to talk a little bit about some of the work that's ongoing at AgSites and a little bit of an update about me since leaving CGIL in the spring. So the title of my presentation today is Collaboration is Critical. And I think that's a value that we take really strongly at AgSites, that alone, each organization can only do so much, but together, if we work together, we can make some big changes for the sector and the industries we work with. So to start today's presentation, I have a little bit of a question for everyone, and I'm going to invite everyone to think about this as I kind of talk about AgSites' approach to this problem. But I'd really love it if we could have a little bit of discussion at the end and talk about kind of everyone's ideas in terms of what we can do to increase record keeping and the use of genetic evaluations on commercial livestock operations. Now, I think we can all agree that that is a fairly large challenge that we have in our sectors, and especially as geneticists, a problem that we face. And although genomics has brought some incredible gains in being able to improve the rates of genetic improvement, and we all know Mike Coffey's famous quote that in the era of genomics, phenotypes are king, we still have a problem kind of boots on the ground level that getting more people involved in genetic improvement is really critical to being able to realize the advancements that we've made in animal breeding research. So think a little bit about this question as I go through some of the slides today, and looking forward to talking and discussing a little bit at the end. So AgSites' approach to this problem is kind of threefold. So focuses on collaboration, the title of today's presentation. So we try to work with many different organizations, all with similar values and perspectives to be able to drive forward progress in terms of record keeping and genetic improvement. Second point would be innovation, which I'll talk about some of the kind of up and coming technologies and things that we're thinking about later in this presentation. And the last thing is trust. So having trusted relationships with the sectors that we work with, trust from our clients who are also our stakeholders, and being able to be a dependable source of information that they can rely on. So normally I'd finish the presentation with kind of a slide like this with some of the organizations we work with and have worked with in the past. However, given the theme of today's presentation being about collaboration, I wanted to start by acknowledging all of our collaborators and thanking them for involving us in the work that they are doing and allowing us to continue to work together to support the livestock sectors. So as Ivan mentioned, I won't go on too long about this, but a little bit about me. So from Chatham, Kent, Ontario, I did graduate from CGIL in the spring with a focus on small ruminant genetics and genomics. I worked with OMAFRA for a little bit, and I've been manager of research and innovation at AgSites since May of 2022. So what is AgSites? For those that aren't familiar, it's a not-for-profit member cooperative. It was incorporated in 1993 as Beef Improvement Ontario, or BIO, as it was known for many years. The original mandate was to provide genetic evaluation services for beef cattle producers. However, over time, we've kind of expanded our role in the sector and gone on to work with some more different industries as well. In 2017, recognizing that BIO didn't quite reflect our current work, the name was changed to AgSites. And today we provide services to livestock sectors, specifically beef, sheep, goats, and bison in Ontario and beyond. Shout out here to General Manager Betty Jo Almond. And throughout the presentation, I'm just going to mention some of the other members of the team who all contribute to this work as well. So AgSites' main work can be divided kind of into three pillars. So we have software solutions, genetic evaluation services, and then research. So in terms of our software solutions, we have two of them. The first is called BioTrack, which is a herd management software. And the second is called BioLinks, which is an agri-food business software. Of course, our original mandate continues to be a major part of AgSites, which is providing genetic evaluations, as well as administering bull and heifer tests to be able to collect phenotypic information for genetic evaluations. And the final pillar is our research program. So a little bit of background about some of our services. So BioTrack is our herd management software. We pride ourselves on the fact that it is flexible and easy to use for producers. It was developed in Ontario based on the need that was identified by beef cattle producers at the time. However, it's been expanded to also include cattle, sheep, and goats. The base kind of component of BioTrack is the ability to maintain inventory and traceability information on your herd or flock. However, it's been expanded over time to also allow you to capture information on breeding events, health events, phenotypes for weights and scores, etc. It also directly integrates with AgSites' beef genetic evaluation system. So every week there are GE runs, and the results of it are populated for our BioTrack clients. It's also integrated with the Canadian Sheep Genetic Evaluation System as well. I am very pleased today to be able to share a little bit of exciting news, and that is that AgSites is transitioning from our BioTrack platform to a new platform that we're calling BioTrack Plus. This is the first time we have talked about this in a group setting, but we're very excited to be starting to onboard some clients into BioTrack Plus, and looking forward to the added flexibility and capability that this new software is going to provide us. Our second software solution is called BioLinks, which is an information management system that was originally designed for meat processors, but it can be used more generally by many different small to medium-sized agri-food businesses. So this program features farm-to-fork traceability. So an abattoir can use an RFID reader to get the tag of an animal coming into the plant. That then gets linked to the animal's carcass ID after it's been harvested. And then barcodes on the individual retail products can then be used to actually follow that retail cut of meat all the way back to the farm and even the animal that meat came from. And when linked together with our BioTrack software, that gives a very powerful way for our livestock producers to start to be able to understand actually how they're meeting the needs of of the sector that they're serving. So BioLinks includes 3 different modules: the production module, which features that traceability piece that I just described, as well as inventory management and sales. So it integrates with directly with point of sale systems to be able to, and also has online store capabilities to be able to actually help agri-food businesses manage their inventory and then make sales and follow that workflow. So again, another shout out to a team member. Lois Neeb is a business development associate with Ag Sites, and she is one of the leads on the BioLinks project. Just like BioTrack has undergone kind of a redesign in recent years, BioLinks is actually under the same process. So at the top of the screen here is a screenshot of the current BioLinks program, but we're actually working towards releasing the new program shown on in the bottom screenshot here, which has been redesigned and further developed to meet the needs that our clients have been asking for, such as increased flexibility to be able to view and use the data, some new integrations, and generally some improvements. So hopefully we will be looking to launch that by spring of 2023. Another initiative we have on the go is called Processor Links. And the purpose of this project is to help connect producers with processors to increase the supply chain efficiency in the Ontario meat sectors. So you may or may not be aware, but lack of processing capacity has been a major struggle of Ontario producers. And this has been particularly highlighted throughout COVID with meat plants being shut down for various outbreaks, etc. So there's quite a backlog, and sometimes the lead times that producers face when they're trying to book in animals for harvest can be upwards of a year. So in terms of an efficient supply chain, that's problematic because the producers don't always know how many animals might be ready at that time when they have their appointment, and it causes a lot of other challenges that just make our supply chain not as efficient as it could be. So this Processor Links project is a collaboration with Meat and Poultry Ontario. We're currently in the first phase of the project, which is a booking lead time dashboard, which is available for free on the Ag Sites website. So this dashboard, as shown on the right, is organized based on county, and any abattoirs that have agreed to sign on. It features information about how you would contact them, as well as the approximate lead time that producers should be prepared for to book in at that location. Additionally, Heather Martin, who is the project coordinator, is available to provide booking assistance. So if producers are having trouble finding an abattoir appointment, they can contact us, and Heather would help to be able to connect them with a processor to meet their needs. Last fall, Jasper Monroe, who was the former person in my current role, as well as Dr. Gord Vandervoort, talked a lot about our genetic evaluation work. So I'm just going to briefly mention a little bit about that today as a reminder. So Ag Sites has a beef cattle genetic evaluation system, and we provide weekly crossbreed comparisons, or crossbreed EPDs. We call them ABCs for beef producers. So our clients here are both our BioTrack clients who use our herd management software, as well as some various different organizations and breed associations that we do work with under service agreements. Additionally, we provide producers with BioDollar index results, which is a proprietary economic index that predicts the profit that can be expected from selecting a bull. The traits included in the genetic evaluation system include birth weight, weaning gain, yearling gain, calving ease, ultrasound traits like ribeye area, marbling, and back fat, as well as bull test traits like test gain, hip height, scrotal circumference, and feed intake. Another service that we offer kind of underneath the genetic evaluation wing is our bull test and ultrasound tests. This is currently being led by Gloria Wilson, who is an administrative assistant with Ag Sites. And the purpose is to evaluate the carcass quality of both seed stock and feedlot cattle. We offer 2 different options for bull and heifer tests, either a home or a test station test, and the length of time can either be 84 days or 112 days. So in a test station test, all of the animals that are being consigned would be brought into the center. They'd go through an adjustment period to get used to their new environment, and then their weight gain would be tracked over 84 or 112 days, with ultrasound measurements taken at the end to be able to have a better picture of their underlying carcass quality. The bull and ultrasound clients can receive a crossbreed comparisons or ABCs, as well as breed association EPDs. The ultrasound images are captured by certified technicians under the CUP lab. So now getting into kind of more of some of the research and development projects ongoing at Ag Sites. So the first project I wanted to highlight high level is our Place to Grow veterinary client project. And the goal of this project was really to test out and see if the use of herd management softwares could actually enable an improved veterinary client relationship, as well as the outcomes of veterinary visits, with a target specifically on small ruminants. So again, you may or may not be aware, but it's rather challenging to find veterinarians if you're a small ruminant producer. There are not that many veterinarians that specialize in small ruminants, and most of them have very few small ruminant clients. So it can be rather challenging to get a relationship established and be able to actually get a veterinarian out on the flock or herd for a service visit. So the idea here was, if we gave pilot producers access to BioTrack to be able to capture information specifically related to health-related events, if that would give the veterinarians more information so that they could make more informed suggestions to the producers to be able to improve the health of the operation. So we were able to have 2 pilot producers that have access to the software, and we'll be using that to try and improve the relationship with their veterinarians. We've also spent a lot of time in this project in discussions with veterinarians and also other industry experts to understand really the problem with accessing veterinary services among small ruminants and get some ideas on how we can actually help to remedy those problems. The second project I wanted to touch base on is a project in collaboration with a startup company called Alpha Phenomics. It's also a collaboration with Livestock Gentech in Alberta. And the idea of this project is to use real-time phenotypic evaluation with multispectral camera technology. So I have an example picture on the right of the thermal image that can be captured by the cameras. And the idea is to take these images and use those to make novel phenotypes that can be incorporated into genetic evaluation programs. So some traits that we're looking at: weight gain, the ability to identify total carcass fat, lean, and bone components, feed conversion efficiency, and maybe in towards looking at things like carbon emissions and heat detection as well. Collaborators on this project include Dr. Jack Bayhan, the CEO of Alpha Phenomics, and Dr. Graham Plastow at the University of Alberta. Next, we have our Bison project funded by Alberta Innovates. And the purpose of this project is to improve the management of bison through the use of novel technologies. So bison producers have kind of a unique situation compared to cattle producers in terms of the ability to actually handle animals and record information on them. So bison can be rather aggressive and it can be difficult to handle them. So producers tend to try and minimize the amount of time that they spend processing animals through chutes, etc. And as a consequence of that, it can be rather challenging for them to get information to be able to actually participate in genetic evaluation programs. So the idea of this project is to use new technologies like cameras, walkover weigh scales, etc., to be able to capture images and capture data remotely that can then be processed and used in decision support tools. So AgSight's role in this project is to integrate the data captured through the project into decision support tools that the producers can use. And our collaborators on this project are Dr. Yuri Montnoli, who is an instructor at Lakeland College, as well as One Cup AI. Next, we have our beef cattle genetic evaluation redesign project, which is funded through a MyTax Accelerate grant in collaboration between CGIL and AgSights. So Kristen Lee in CGIL is the PhD student working on this project, working very closely with Dr. Vandervoort to understand our genetic evaluation system and look at ways that we can optimize it in the future so that we are able to accommodate large-scale phenotypic data like the sensor data I mentioned in the previous couple of slides, as well as incorporating genomic information as well. So Kristen is supervised by Dr. Angela Canovas and Dr. Flavia Schenkel, and also works closely with Dr. Ricardo Ventura. And I'm not going to talk too much about this project, so we'll leave the floor open for Kristen to give a CGIL seminar in the future. Next, we have our CBIN dashboard project. So CBIN stands for the Canadian Beef Improvement Network, and it's an initiative that's been spearheaded by the Canadian Beef Breeds Council to really increase collaboration among industry leaders in the beef sector. So the idea of this project, which is funded by the Beef Cattle Research Council, is to increase collaboration for beef cattle genetic improvement across both the seed stock breeds and the commercial sector. So our collaborators on this project include CBBC, Canadian Angus, Canadian Charolais Association, Canadian Simmental Association, and the Canadian Hereford Association. And some of the goals of this project include the development of an online resource hub with interactive graphs and a selection tool to help breeders make more informed decisions. So the broader objectives of this project are first to develop crossbreed genetic evaluations that combine both seed stock and commercial data for the Canadian beef sector. Second, we're investigating the impact of data sharing across both the seed stock and commercial sectors to improve the accuracy of genetic evaluations. And lastly, trying to increase the awareness and use of genetic improvement resources through the creation of a centralized online resource hub that we refer to as the CBIN dashboard. So this is just a pilot project, but I thought I'd take a few moments to kind of talk about it because I thought it might be of interest to this group. So in this project, we worked with 9 seed stock and 6 commercial beef cattle producers from across Canada. We obtained performance records for the calving seasons between 2016 and 2022 for traits including calving ease, birth weight, weaning gain, yearling gain, and then ultrasound traits, ribeye area, marbling, back fat, and scrotal circumference. So the number of records we had available is on the right. Again, this is a rather small pilot project, but we really wanted to understand if this collaboration could work, and it's basically the idea is to pave the way towards deeper collaborations across the different industry associations. So one of the questions that we've had in this project is what the value is of including commercial data for the genetic evaluation of the purebred seed stock bulls. So often in the beef sector, we see a lot of emphasis on genetic evaluations in the seed stock sector, but less so in the commercial sector. But those commercial offspring of those seed stock bulls can provide what we believe to be a lot of information towards improving their genetic valuations. So what these graphs are showing is the distribution of the across-breed EPDs when commercial data is included on the top and excluded on the bottom for 3 different breeds and only the purebred animals, so Angus in red, Charolais in green, and Simmental in blue. Now, of course, we all know that when you change the data in a genetic evaluation run, you're going to see different results. But the idea here is that we actually looked almost like a validation design in a genomics project. We looked at the same animals in both runs. So the same purebred seed stock animals when commercial data was included or excluded. And you can see the distributions change a little bit between the 2 runs. So of course, this could have potential implications in terms of if the genetic evaluations without commercial data potentially could result in different ranking of animals compared to if commercial data was included. The second set of graphs is the accuracy of the EPDs when the commercial data was included again at the top and excluded at the bottom. And what you'll generally notice, and of course we would expect, is that when more information is used in the genetic evaluation run, the accuracies tend to be higher under those circumstances. So overall, what this pilot project has been able to highlight to the seed stock sectors is that there is value in incorporating commercial data into genetic evaluations, and also that collaborating and working together in a crossbreed genetic evaluations does have value over only considering the records within an individual breed. So just a quick little look at the CBIN dashboard or some snapshots of it. So the dashboard has interactive graphs. On the left, we have a genetic trend. Note again that we only had data from 2016 to 2022, so those are the only years that are displayed here. But our hope is that in the future we can collaborate more deeply to get deeper and further amounts of information to be able to increase the length of time shown on these graphs. We also display the expected response to selection using the biodollars index, and this is in dollars. And then lastly, a graph comparing the impact of sire selection. So these graphs are all interactive. Producers can manipulate the data using sliders and drop downs, etc., to understand kind of the impact of their genetic selection decisions. Next, we have the selection tool. The idea of the selection tool is that it gives producers a way of identifying new breeding stock that could meet the needs of their operation. So it's based on the Ag Site's BioDollar Economic Index, but users can customize the index a little bit to reflect traits that are more or less important to them. They can do this either by ranking the traits on a 1 to 5 scale of their importance, or by answering yes/no questions about their production system that would then point them towards what the weighting should be in order to improve those kind of traits. The selection tool then returns a list of the top animals given constraints on breed as well as location. The next project I wanted to touch on briefly is the multi-species small ruminant genetic evaluation project, which is funded by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada and is a really large and impressive effort by many of the small ruminant genetic service providers and industry organizations. I know many of the collaborators are on the call today and like to thank them for joining and just wanted to briefly mention this project and touch base on why it's so important to the small ruminant sectors. So the purpose of this project is to increase collaboration and efficiency across organizations involved in small ruminant genetic services across Canada. So this project is quite large, and there's a number of different subcommittees that exist to work towards different goals towards moving the genetic evaluation of small ruminants forward. So just as an example, this is a process map that the database committee has been working on in terms of who's involved in genetic evaluations of meat sheep in Canada. So the actual information on here, I'm not going to go through in great detail. I just put the picture here to highlight that there's many different organizations that are involved in genetic evaluations, and it's important that we really try to work together and work towards moving more efficiently to include, to be able to continue to provide these services to the sectors. One part of this project I did want to touch base on a little bit, because again, I think it would be of interest to this group, is the project to develop a new meat goat genetic evaluation system. So in this project, we're considering kind of 3 different trait areas. So we are looking at growth traits, reproduction traits, as well as conformation traits. The existing meat goat genetic evaluation system is provided as a free service by the Canadian, that's coordinated by the Canadian Meat Goat Association, and is run by Dr. Ken Andreas at the University of Kentucky. Currently, the results that are provided to breeders include adjusted phenotypes and within contemporary group comparisons on a fairly limited number of traits and data. So there is a need in the sector to work towards having a more Canadian-based and fuller solution to provide genetic evaluations. So just a few preliminary results here. And this information was courtesy of Dr. Gord Vandervoort and Ag Sites and Lawrence Magnell at CCSI, or the Canadian Centre for Swine Improvement. So we've phenotypic distribution for the trait total weight weaned here. We can see this is the phenotypic distribution of the trait. We also have the EPD distribution here as a deviation from 0. So animals above 0 would of course be ones that are improving the population, and below 0 would be ones that we should probably cull. And then we have a genetic trend here for the trait. So we can see that there have been some small improvements in the trait over time, and hopefully that will continue to improve as more producers get involved in the genetic evaluation program. However, one thing that's important to highlight is that the reliability of these genetic evaluations is relatively low at this point. And again, that highlights the need to continue to include more data and more producers to be able to increase the accuracy of the genetic evaluations. So to finish today's presentation, I thought I would give a few updates of kind of what I've been up to specifically since finishing in CGIL in the spring. So it's been a busy few months since joining the team at Ag Sites. Lots of different industry conferences and quite a bit of travel. So attended with Gordon Laurence the Ontario Meat Goat Symposium in Lindsay to meet with producers and also increase collaboration among the industry organizations. Also traveled to the Canadian Beef Industry Conference in Penticton, British Columbia. Again, a really great opportunity to get to know more of the people in the sector. I also traveled to Ames, Iowa, to attend a ultrasound training course with the goal of becoming certified to take ultrasound evaluations for beef cattle. That was a really interesting experience. And then right after that, traveled to Canyon, Texas to do the certification exam, results of which are still pending, but fingers crossed. And just last weekend, I was actually in Niagara Falls for the the Ontario Meat Industry Expo, meeting with meat processors and businesses involved in meat production from the kind of business side of it rather than the production side of it. I thought I would end today's presentation with a couple of things that I've learned since finishing up as being a grad student. And 5 tips I have for any current grad students who are looking at kind of careers in the industry track. So my first recommendation is to be involved. I'm incredibly fortunate that I was able to have lots of industry involvement throughout both of my graduate degrees in the sheep sector and then in the goat sector as well. And those relationships I've gained and experience actually interacting with producers have been invaluable since completing my PhD and joining ag sites. Second tip would be to keep an open mind. So the job that I currently do on a day-to-day basis involves things that I never would have expected being involved with. For example, assisting with the development of new software. Of course, I don't have a background in computer science or a deep knowledge of programming, but it's been really remarkable learning some of these skills kind of on the fly. And I would encourage anyone to keep an open mind when confronted with new opportunities. My third and probably most important tip would be to take a project management course. So that's one thing that I unfortunately did not do in grad school that would be invaluable in my current position. I believe the library is running a project management course for grad students in the winter semester, and I know people who have taken it in the past, and I would highly suggest that you consider applying for that if registrations are still open. Fourth tip would be to learn when good is good enough. So the pace of work I've found to be quite a bit faster than grad school, which is great. You're always doing different things, meeting new people, learning new things. But at the same time, you have to learn when what you're doing is good enough and you can move on to the next thing, which is a bit different than grad school, where you're really focused on how we can actually optimize and get the absolute best analyses we possibly can. And the last tip there would be to learn how to use Excel. You'll never know how invaluable that can be once you get out into industry. And if you have the opportunity, learning a programming language like JavaScript or Python would be really great too. So that's pretty much it for me. Thanks everyone for taking the time to listen. And finish by again reminding everyone of this question I posed at the beginning of the presentation. How do we increase record keeping and use of genetic evaluations on commercial livestock operations? So thanks everyone. Looking forward to answering any questions and some discussion.
All right, thank you, Erin. Great presentation. And yeah, for you in the audience, now if you want to interact with the speaker, if you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand. I think that's a good way for me to see, and if there are more people, I can see an order, and you can then open your microphone and your webcam. Yeah, talk with Erin. Okay, I see one hand. Yeah, go ahead, Catherine.
Hello, Erin. Thanks for a great presentation and thanks for those 5 great tips. My favorite being the project manager training or course and Excel. um, what would be the difference or what brought you to build or imagine ABCs compared to APDs? What was did it come from a producer's need? Did it come from I mean, what's the purpose or what's the difference or how did you how do you use it differently?
Yeah, great question, Catherine. So, um, An ABC stands for a crossbreed comparison, which means that it's equivalent to a crossbreed EPD. So in the beef sector, traditionally, there's been a lot of focus on individual breed associations running their own genetic valuations. But the problem with this, or maybe not a problem, but a challenge that poses, is that the results are not directly comparable to other breeds. So if you look at your results for Angus versus your results for Charolais, a producer's natural inclination is that they're going to try and compare those two values, but they're not comparable because it's not based on the same data. So that's where AgSites' genetic valuation system, with a commercial focus and having a lot of producers that are involved in commercial data collection, that's where the focus came on this crossbreed comparison. And ABC is just a way of branding that to help identify that it's a little bit different than what beef producers in particular would consider an EPD, which often they're thinking about a within breed EPD.
Okay, thank you. I'll let someone else ask a question, but if you want an answer later on your first question, I may have one if you're interested at some point.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing it. Nice to see you, Catherine.
Right, does anyone else have a question? I guess in the meantime, I have a question, Erin. It's about so the clients that AgSites has, are they located mostly in Canada? Is it global? How is it? And then I'm thinking, just to connect with a second question, then would be, is there an implication when you look at different location and the genetic evaluations for specific traits or something?
Ivan's favorite question.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point. At the present, our genetic valuation system does not incorporate any G by E effects, and something that maybe we should be looking forward to in the future. Most of our clients currently are in Canada, but we do work with clients internationally as well. So one of our largest clients is based in Colorado in the US, and they have a number of cooperator herds that work with them, and we do some selection index design work for them. We also have clients, especially on the BioLink side in the US, across the US, one in California, etc. So, and we do have BioTrack clients abroad as well too. So we're trying to expand our network to incorporate new collaborations in other countries as well. But yeah, very good question. And I agree that it likely does have an effect and something that we should consider in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. Yes, we have another Jacques Chesnes. I don't know how to pronounce him, sorry. But go ahead, please, and ask a question.
Just a minute, I'm trying to, okay. I can only speak, I think. I cannot show myself, but that's okay. I know Erin anyway. I guess I had a question regarding how to get more commercial producers to use performance data and genetic evaluation. And I know you indicated that you are building the CBIN dashboard for this. And what do you think are the key tools actually to get commercial producers more interested into participating in genetic evaluation? Is it, for example, reporting things in dollars, showing what kind of economic gains they can make? Is it establishing a better knowledge base for them to access, etc.? So I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, great question, Jacques. Obviously not an easy one, but one that I did ask everyone else, so I guess I should give my perspective on that as well. So the idea here with CBIN, I think, is that currently the commercial producers don't really have a place where they can go for this information in kind of like one cohesive spot. So I think making information easily accessible is a big component of this. And the second is really building trust, right? So if producers understand and can trust people that have the information and are able to share it, then they're going to be more willing to consider that information in their new genetic evaluation or genetic decisions. So building trust through KTT activities and working really closely with the individual commercial producers, I think is really critical in that role as well. Jacques, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that question. What do you think we should be doing?
Well, I mean, I think you have a pretty good answer. It's not a simple response anyway, a simple answer. There are several things that people can do. Certainly, I think it requires a joint effort between various organizations to be successful. Like, I think so far one issue has been that people are working in their own silo in a way, except maybe in the dairy industry, where people in the dairy industry, I think, have worked together to get it done. And you're right. I mean, it can work at several levels, whether it's making information readily available, or going on the farm to create these links, and also building the trust. I think providing economic information is also useful, but one of the issues, of course, is that genetic progress is quite slow in a way, generally, compared to what the changes you can make by feeding animals, for example, better, or other things, or having better health. But because it's cumulative, it has a huge impact, right? And we need to get that message across, and it's not always very easy. And genetics is not always the first thing that people think about, that commercial producers think about. So it's really a joint effort that needs to be done. But I think it's just as true with small ruminants as it is with cattle, and there is a lot that could be done in this area for small ruminants as well.
I agree. Thanks for your comment, Jacques.
Can I say my answer?
Of course.
Okay. I think for those commercial producers, asking them to collect data, their time has a value, okay, because that's time they don't take to do anything else. And if we recognize that this has a value, it's time or effort or whatever, and we bring them back this value by, like you said, making information accessible, being able to benchmark, being able to access all kinds of reports, being able to even socialize and exchange with other breeders in the same club or in the same group. Anything that would add a value back, so it's a win-win situation, would be a great motivational thing to motivate them to collect data. So so then the first thing to do would be to ask them what are their needs, what would be their needs for reporting, or for what would be an added value for with what they would exchange their time. See, so and knowing that, I think it would and filling their needs, it would be a great start base.
Yeah, excellent ideas, Catherine.
So
Thank you.
that's my point on it.
shouldn't always be the same two people that are talking, but I just wanted to point out regarding ABCs that Jim Wilton developed ABCs, and I was involved with that about 30 years ago. And at the time, they were not very popular, particularly with breed associations. So it's interesting how it comes back, you know, in a way after so much time. But there was a big difference back then in that evaluations were only available mostly for growth traits. And that put some of the other breeds like Angus and Hereford at a disadvantage, right? Because their advantages were for other traits like reproduction and so on. And now that you have a more complete list of traits, including reproduction, then ABC make more sense because some breeds are good for something and some breeds are good for others. So sometimes the solution depends a lot on what can be done in terms of answering all the questions, not just some questions that's only part of the problem, right? So anyway, that's just a comment.
Interesting history that relates right back to CGIL as well.
In fact, I think Jim Wilton was the first one to do that, you know, but there was a lot of opposition to it, and he accounted already for, you know, crossbreeding and all the different types of crossbred and all that, and that was Canada took it over and tried to get that evaluation going, and it was published, but it was not all that popular with you know, the purebred breeders anyway at the time.
Thank you.
All right, Erin. So I think we have come up with a good time for a presentation and some discussions. And yeah, if there's any final question or comment. So
Great presentation, Erin.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks everyone for taking the time to join today. Nice to see lots of familiar names, and hopefully in the future we can be back in 141 for another presentation.
yes, certainly. So thank you, Erin, and thank you all for joining us today. And we will continue our series of seminar during the rest of this semester. So every Friday, same time. And I hope to see you all again next Friday.
Thank you, Ivan.
Bye bye.